3 photographers from 3 different time zones, all connected by night photography and all shooting with the Pentax K1. We are the Nightaxians. I'm just going to jump right into this one because, Ken, you have an interesting story about what happened to you recently. Yes. It was surprising, and I'm interested to hear your resolution to it, and maybe it's going to help other people who run into the same thing. So have at it.
I will say that I got a little cheesed off at this, so my actions might reflect that. But anyway, so what happened was, on Facebook, I saw, I belong to a couple of Star Trek Facebook groups, and I saw that one of them was having a live event. So I tuned in, and I got there a little bit early, and to my surprise, the photo there looked really familiar. And I thought, gosh, that looks just like one of my photos that I took in 2013. And I looked, and I expanded the screen, and sure enough, it was a photo that I took at Vasquez Rocks. Now, if you remember Vasquez Rocks, those of you who are Star Trek fans, that's where, among other things, Captain Kirk battled the Gorn in the original series. And this place is only about 35 minutes from my house. So I took a Star Trails photo with the Lyrid meteor in there. So, I'm pretty proud of this photo. And it's a special photo because it has a Lyrid meteor in the middle of that. So it's fairly recognizable.
Gorn, though.
No Gorn.
No Gorn.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. Although I did make another photograph with a robot there.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway.
Sorry.
So I see this photo, and then it starts, and they keep the same background. So they have the same background throughout the entire thing. So they're just like kind of riding this photo all the way through. And so the more I look at this, the more I start getting really, really upset. And I start writing comments like, who do you people think you are stealing my photo? That's my photo, and this is copyright infringement. And finally, someone gets back to me, and they say, we're really sorry. We had no idea that this was your photo. And I said, nonsense. Right. And of course that's a bunch of nonsense. So I said, look, everywhere I post this, it has my it has my watermark on it. So don't tell me this. I know you're lying. And she says, no, where I got it from, there is no watermark. And she sends me the link. So I hit the link right away, and I'm taken to, I can't remember where it was. I want to say it was Smithsonian because I entered it in some sort of a contest. So it was I believe on the Smithsonian website. If not, it was something similar to that. And I had entered it into a contest, and unbeknownst to me, they since I submit it without a watermark, they had posted it without a watermark. However, directly underneath in the captions, it says, copyright Ken Lee. So it's very clearly labeled. So I sent her a screenshot with a giant arrow pointing to the copyright. And I said, so again, you were notified about this. It's pretty obvious here. It's in giant letters. And so what I did, I just couldn't. I guess part of the reason why I was so hopping mad was because this particular group, not only do I love Star Trek, so I sort of almost took it personally, but one of the other reasons was that this was people who did a podcast or show about LGBTQ and women's rights and things like that. So you would think that they would be the very last people to go and steal a photo from you. But that's, in fact, exactly what happened. And I think I get a little bit more upset when it's supposed to be someone who pretends like they're one of the good guys and, maybe not so much. So I basically sent them an email saying that you have to pay me a licensing fee. And
Right.
I gave them a deadline. I said, if you either don't comply or you don't respond within 72 hours, I'm going to take legal action. So I'm trying to be a nice guy and, give you a way out of this, but the ball's in your court. And so within, I don't remember how long, but it wasn't that long, like maybe a few hours, they had, they said, send me an invoice for this. So I did, and then sent them some other information. And then within several more hours, they had actually paid. However,
Nice.
I had told them not to use the other function and just to, send it another way in which I wouldn't get socked with fees. So they had naturally done that. So at this point, I was so sick and tired of this that I just completely went off on them and told them why I was so upset. The reason that I just cited about them allegedly being good guys, but not really. And I just completely went off on them. I think it was about as nasty as I could get while still being somewhat professional and not using F-bombs. And so that was the end of it, except that I had them pay extra for the fee and reimburse me for the fee, just because I was just so sick and tired of them. I was going to let it go, and I thought, no, I really cannot let this go. So that's my story of my latest copyright infringement, but I think it ended about as well as something like that can end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry that happened to you. I know I was kind of in disbelief when I was starting to read through the chat thread, because I didn't come in on that conversation until it was already well developed. I'm like, what is happening here?
For those who don't know, we have this chat thread. It's text messages, and it's dating back for years, because I think the Nightaxians here are trying to set the record for the longest chat thread ever done. So,
Yeah.
At least involving 3 people with K1s,
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So was this the first time something like that had happened to you?
No, this is just the most recent time.
This is the most recent one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just got a little bit more heated than normal because of that. And also, that's not the only reason. It was because I was just having eye surgery for a detached retina. Someone had just stolen my domain name, and I had just lost my Facebook account. So I could just barely be professional here.
This is like the photographer's version of the Michael Douglas movie Falling Down. That's what was happening here.
Yes.
I pretty much just blew a cog.
Yeah. Well, that's understandable, because that's a lot that came into play in a short amount of time. I know that people who are watching this are probably photographers, so we'd be preaching to the choir onto a lot of this anyway. But it does happen, and when it happened to me on a social media platform and I called people out for it, I was called greedy, because somebody was using my something to promote a paid business, which I'll tell you about after. And did you feel any guilt or anything by going after them at the level that you did, or did you feel as though you were completely entitled to do that based on what happened?
No, I felt that I was completely entitled. I mean, it takes years to build that sort of skill. It takes, we've all spent thousands of dollars driving to these places, learning how to photograph, and learning the skills necessary to post-process and buying the equipment. So asking a relatively small licensing fee, to me, is more than reasonable, and having it stolen is not reasonable.
What were the chances, though, that you would be on a video chat in which your photo, that was the unbelievable part to me.
Yeah.
You caught them in the act by pursuing something you were interested in, and that is what you were greeted with.
And really, it was like, but it was that sort of, you're absolutely right, but it was that interest level that brought us back together, because they clearly took that photo because it was from Vasquez Rocks, and it looked, sort of sufficiently spacey and otherworldly. So that, they could have taken any day photo or whatever, but that one was a night photo with a meteor in it. And that, appeals to someone who's doing Star Trek. They wanted to show stars, but at Vasquez Rocks. So I think that interest level, kind of brought us back together.
Right. Yeah. Did you try to just Google a couple different terms to see how you might have been found? Maybe they just Googled Vasquez Rocks and
I didn't. The only thing I can tell you is that they were using the same photo for promotional material on Instagram and Facebook as well. So it wasn't just the video. It was all over the place too. And I pointed that out to them. I said, this isn't like just a backdrop that you casually, threw onto a video. It's all over the place. And that's
everywhere.
Yeah, and that's my photo. So
right. Well, congratulations on finding that. What an amazing story, because you very easily could have missed that.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the worst part about it for me was the fact that it happened with the same people 2 years in a row with the same photo, which is hugely ironic. I have this one photo. You've all seen it. It's called A Commons Christmas. I shot it in 2009. It's a small shopping village not far from where I live. And in the winter, they decorate it with Christmas lights. And it looks very New England-y, Christmassy. And it was just one of these things where I was driving by one night very late. I had my photography gear, and it had just finished snowing, and it was 5 days before Christmas. And I thought, well, let me go in there and look. And I found this amazing scene, and I got a couple shots, and I didn't really think much about it. I went home, I processed them, I threw them online, and whammo presto, it became my most popular photo. And now it's been, I don't know, well, we're going on 13 years since I took that picture, and every Christmas I sell a ton of them. I sell them at art shows in the summer. I put them in a nice brown frame, and they kind of match the tones. It just makes people feel warm and happy and New Englandy at Christmas. So it also has become my most internet stolen photo. I see a lot of it being shared, and I'm okay with the sharing side of it. I don't have any issue with that.
Right.
I'll have people ask me, hey, can I use this as wallpaper on my phone? I appreciate you asking, of course. Yeah. But
I'm okay with those too, but it's when a business starts using it for their profit and gain, then I really take issue with that, or promotional material or anything like that.
Well, that brings us to I think this is about 2015. The photo's well known around here and well known on Facebook, and if people see it online, they know it was mine. Sometimes people who see things that even kind of look like it from other areas ask me if that was mine. So I got a message through Facebook one day from a friend who said, I just saw a product online who's using your photo to advertise their product. And I thought, oh, interesting. And they sent me the link. Now, here's what was interesting. This was not a product that was unrelated to photography. It was a photography product. It was, if you took a picture in your house, of your living room, let's say, and you wanted to be able to use an app to insert Santa Claus into your living room, this app would do that for you. So you can impress your kids or whatever. Okay, fine. Interesting. They had taken that process and put Santa in one of my photos, the Commons Christmas one, while simultaneously and conveniently covering the watermark with Santa's butt.
Hey,
so as a result, you have this picture that is very popular for me, being seen by a page that it turns out has 2.1 million followers.
Right.
Wow.
And no one has any idea who took that picture. Now, I'm not going to retire on that picture. I'm not going to, leave my illustrious career and whatever I'm doing because I'm selling a lot of those photos. But that photo went in front of 2.1 million people and had something like 15,000 likes and 6,000 comments.
Right.
I'm pretty sure one of those if they knew it was me, it might have generated at least one sale. I'm pretty confident that was the case.
Yeah.
Right. I also want to point out right here that when you cover up a watermark, that's willful infringement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like either when you Photoshop it out or cover it or crop it out, that's willful infringement, and that does not sit well in a court of law.
Court of law. Mm-hmm.
And this had not happened to me before at that level, and so I didn't really know how to respond to it. I decided I would write a comment underneath. I would write it from my business page, so that my little tiny business page, so that there would be some credibility. And I got absolutely slammed by all the fans of that page. You're just after money. You're so mean. You're the Grinch. Because photos are worthless. Photos are just things that you can throw on advertising for free, and it doesn't involve any effort. It's like they just come out of nowhere. So I ended up deleting the comment, and then I sent a message through the Facebook page. But then I did some more research, and I found out that they had used that page on picture on Pinterest, and they had used it on Instagram also. So I finally did get a hold of somebody, and I got all sorts of apologies, and they told me that they would be happy to credit me. And I said, I don't want any of that at this point. I want you to take that picture down from all your social media and never use it again. And I said, I don't ever want to see that photo associated with your page again. And that's where I was willing to leave it. So probably I stopped quite a bit short of you, and I wish I hadn't. I wish I had done what you had done. Because next year, I got a message from the same person who had originally notified me of the first infringement saying, guess what?
They're back at it again.
They're back. They're back. It was the exact same thing. It was as if they took the same marketing photo and just threw it back out there. Like they hired new people.
Was it in the same place again?
Yeah, it was exactly the same photo. I had screen captured the one from the first time around, so I had that. It was identical. Well, there's an interesting copyright thing that you can do with websites. I forget what it's called, but if you find that somebody is using your content, you can file a claim with the hosting provider, and they will deal with it. So for a short amount of time, that page, which now had over 2.5 million people, was removed from Facebook.
Oh, wow.
As a result, Facebook did not mess around. I know people have various opinions on Facebook, as do I, but in that particular case, I felt very, very satisfied. But I did contact an attorney, and he said, listen, he goes, you're looking at potentially $125,000 or more as a result of this, especially the fact that it happened to you twice. So I had a cease and desist letter drafted up. Had a heck of a time finding the business. It's one of these places that has a massive online presence, but is registered to a small cubicle on the side of a storage building somewhere in like New Jersey. So in the end, it really didn't get all that far, except for the fact that they did end up reinstating the page after Facebook removed the offending post. They gave them some sort of a copyright strike, and they permanently banned the person who was managing that page from managing that page any further, which I didn't know was a thing at the time. And later I got a message from that person using a different person's account explaining to me how sorry they were. And I simply said, this is the second year in a row. You were really sorry last year. You're not that sorry, it turns out, and neither am I. And I just blocked them and moved on. And that was it. And ultimately, I wasn't able to get anything out of it because you can't get blood from a stone. That's fine, but I did get enough satisfaction so that I was like, all right, this is as good as it's going to be. But still, how many eyes looked at that photo and thought that's an amazing photo and might have bought it otherwise? Yeah. So that's my most stolen internet photo. And now I have a bounty out there. Every year I'll post that photo. I do like a Facebook Christmas montage of photos every day up from like December 1st to Christmas Eve. And on that one, I say, hey, if you're on Facebook and you see this one being used somewhere for advertising, you let me know. I'm going to send you a free autographed signed print of that photo. And I'm going to go after those people. But a couple years in a row now, I haven't heard boo. So I think I'm in relatively good shape.
Guess
Yeah.
it's
Good.
working.
That's my long-winded story. But for those of you out there who have that happen to you, you can get traction. You may not get money, but you can get some hosting traction. And sometimes that's satisfying enough. On a side note, a year later, that photo was being used by somebody who was selling oil paintings. But what he was doing was taking other people's photos and putting them through Photoshop, putting some sort of filter on them and saying, look at my oil painting. Yeah. And I knew it was my photo. He had posted that on YouTube. And then his YouTube channel was suddenly gone. So that
Too
was
bad.
as
So
something.
sad.
Yeah. As something for sale. Yep. He was selling, there's a whole thing about derivative works and all this other stuff that you can read about. But then there's also just flat out copyright infringement, But Mike, you have a story that's a little bit different than these two. So we dealt with businesses that were, infringing. Sounds like you had something quite a bit different.
Yeah. None of mine were really as bad as either of the situations that you two had. And this probably happened back in 2011, 2012, maybe, long enough ago that I was still kind of learning night photography, and it was before I'd ever figured out how to put a watermark on anything. And I posted a picture of an ambulance. It was like I think it was like a 72, 73 Cadillac maybe, but it was an ambulance. And I posted it, and a friend of mine had shared it. Because she apparently liked it so much, so she shared it. And I don't know, maybe an hour and a half after I had initially posted it, she sends Karen, my wife, she sends her a text that says, "Hey, do you either of you know Joe Schmo, whatever his name was?" And I had no idea who the guy was. Karen didn't know who it was. And so I went, because she was Facebook friends with this guy, it was easy to go find him. So I went and looked, and sure enough,
his name really was Joe Schmo.
Yeah, exactly. It was Joe Schmo. How crazy is that? So I went to his Facebook page, and there was my picture of this ambulance, but it wasn't a shared photo. It was a photo that he had, I don't know, however you could do it back then, now it's really easy, but he had basically taken that photo and then posted it on his page just as if it was his. And of course, it's not like I'm trying to make money off this and be world famous, but I did take the picture, so at least give a little bit of credit. And of course, he was one of these people that has quite a few hundred friends, and all his friends are, "Oh my God, that's so great! I love this! I love this!" And I'm thinking, dude, that's my picture. And so I felt very violated, even though that's not even that bad. I felt just the way you guys did. And so I contacted Facebook about it, and I think it took maybe a half hour, probably not more than an hour, and Facebook had pulled it off his page. It was gone. And I think I had messaged him and had said something about, "Dude, that's not cool." And I don't know if I'm sure probably all three of us have had photos taken like that any number of times. I guess I'm lucky that the only time that I know of that happened was, I had, just like the Christmas picture, I had somebody who actually had seen it and could give me a heads up about it. So I put watermarks on them now.
There's a service called I think it's called Pixie.
Right.
They can kind of keep an eye on things for you too. And I noticed that a lot of my photos end up being shared on Pinterest, which I'm fine with, but it does tend to flag through that Pixie site.
Okay.
And the Christmas photo that I mentioned, I see a lot in, like Russia on like downloadable calendars, like they write January across the front of it.
Oh, right.
Yeah. I'm not going to be able to do much about that, but you got to wonder, how many people, Mike, thought that photo was his? And did anybody reach out maybe to him and ask if they could get a copy of it or purchase it? Or, I wonder how that conversation would have gone, because they would have had a very low quality copy of it probably.
Yeah. I don't know. The friend of mine who had given me the heads up about it, when I had gone to his page and had looked at it, she'd actually commented and had said, "Hey, isn't this Mike Cooper's photo?" And of course he ignored it, didn't care, which is fine. I got it taken down, which is all I really cared about.
Right. Was this a guy that was local to you?
He was, he probably lived maybe 20 miles away from me. So, yeah, kind of local. But like I said, it was nobody I knew.
That's gutsy, considering that you're kind of local. It's one thing if you're 5 states away. He
was Facebook friends with a friend of mine, and he posted it being friends with her, so he should have known that she was going to see it.
Right. Did he write like anything about the photo in there, or did he just post it?
I think if he wrote anything about it, he'd said something about Ghostbusters, because it kind of had it was an older ambulance, so it almost had that Ghostbusters feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But no, that was probably about all he said that I remember.
But there's another example of a bunch of people seeing your photo and not having any idea that it was yours,
Mm-hmm. And just like you said, you put all this work into trying to make something that looks pretty cool, and then 5 seconds somebody's got a photo that, hey, this is mine.
And the thing is, what happens in social media, the internet, or whatever, it makes it so easy to take a photo, and so very clearly people are thinking, well, if I can, I will, and so this happens. This, unfortunately happens all the time, even with photos that are as obvious as, say, a night photo, which, most people don't know how to, take photos of that caliber, but they're still stolen regardless. So
yeah, and we could do a whole discussion about watermarks. I know people have various opinions. I know several photographers that don't do them, that think they're pointless.
Oh, they're definitely not pointless.
No, they're definitely not.
Again, willful infringement. So
it is.
If for no other reason, then you can prove that someone removed it. That may be the most important reason of all.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have them on there necessarily to stop. The people who are going to do the malarkey are going to do the malarkey,
Right. Yeah.
I just want people to know who are interested, like, oh, this guy took that photo. I want to see more of that person's photo,
Yeah.
And that's it. But another photo that I had taken on the same night as Mashpee Commons, down the road, I did like a Main Street shot of Falmouth, and somebody a couple years later put a wind turbine in the picture to make a political statement about a wind turbine problem going on around here. And they conveniently, when they re-edited the photo, they cropped out the area that would have had the watermark in it.
Sure.
So I had to deal with that. But then ironically, underneath that post, somebody had shared it to their own page and said, let's talk about why you need a watermark. So as if now I'm also being accused by somebody else of not properly watermarking. So that was a whole nother discussion I had to have with that person and show them, explain to them, I know you're trying to be helpful here, but take a step back and see what actually happened. Maybe you might want to have a different discussion.
Yeah.
All right, so 35 past the hour then is
flashing light start going off on our screens, letting us know. Or play music, like they do at the Oscars.
Yeah, well, I got something more effective. What happens when the time's up is a clown comes through the doors behind you guys and just whacks you in the head with like a plastic hammer.